ALR stay the same. ALR stands for Agricultural Land Reserve, and the Agricultural Land Commission manages the Agricultural Land Reserve. So I've passed around and I've put little yellow sheets, postcards. The postcards are for Christy Clark, so if you would mind signing them, and I could collect them after the event, and a little poster with a boy on it who says, "We're counting on you." It would be really great if you could come down to the rally on the 10th of February.
Thanks. Thank you. Yeah. So, who here thinks we should go organic in Vancouver Island? I just wanted to know where we're starting from here. So, now the thing is, I'm going to say off the top of my head, you know, the film makes me feel like it's a kind of a no-brainer. Like that we sort of, yeah, of course, why shouldn't we go organic? So why can't, like, and I like the comment too from one of the people, I think it was a farmer who was saying, we shouldn't say we can't do it. It's okay, if you want to say you don't want to do it, that's one thing, but don't say you can't do it because we can do it. So what is blocking us from doing that here? Or are there obstacles we can talk about? Without, like, you know, spilling drinks and stuff and starting fistfights.
Well, lots of obstacles. The agriculture industry is, you know, dominated by an agribusiness model, and it's commodity oriented, and it's heavily shaped by the United States, which subsidizes cheap product. You know, farmers have been able to sell product down there for less money and still make a profit than what it costs them to grow it because of subsidies. And if you drive prices down in such a large market like that, it affects the prices that we can charge. So and organic is more expensive. So you know that the cost of food, what we can pay for food in the grocery stores is artificial. It's lower than what it really costs from that point of view, and also from a market externality point of view. You know, we don't pay the full costs of growing our food in terms of damage to the environment, in terms of energy consumption, in terms of all the infrastructure that goes into it. So there's lots of reasons why it's hard to, you know, go organic from an economic point of view, but it's a truer, more just price, I guess.
And do you want to add something, Natalie?
Is it okay if I do the visualization now?
Oh, yes.
Okay.
I'm sorry, I apologize. I didn't bring an apple, but you have to visualize an apple.
I had a team partner who forgot the goods. Okay. So usually when I speak at every presentation, and if you've heard this before, you can just like gloss over or something and I'll know it's too much. But I like to get into thinking about the world as an apple. So imagine the world as an apple, okay? And then... Oh my gosh, does anyone have a knife? Okay.
Well, let's not ruin a good apple.
Okay. It's coming. Oh, this is going to be... Jeremy, will you do the cuts for me? Okay.
Folks, not only a poet, a performance artist, and here he is.
So here's the world, and we're going to imagine it.
Use the table, Jeremy. I'm getting a little nervous. We don't have enough insurance for this.
Okay, Jeremy, can you please cut the apple, quarter it, please?
Quarter?
Yes, please.
So much pressure.
A round of applause.
Okay, so first off the bat, we're going to take away 3/4 of this apple for oceans, because that's how much oceans are on the planet. Anybody hungry? Oh,
Please,
okay.
you can eat it.
This one section represents the land on the planet Earth. Okay, now can I get you to cut that again into eighths? No, like in half.
Oh, in half.
It's a quarter, so 2 would make eighths. Okay, so we're going to take 1/8 of this section away for areas on the Earth that are inhospitable for agriculture, deserts, tundra, that kind of thing. And then this is what we're left with. This is where we live. This is where our highways, schools, roads are. This is where we are right now. Okay? And now what we're going to do is, can I get you to cut the peel off this apple? The last cut's the deepest. Thank you, Jeremy. Okay, my friends, this is how much soil we have for the entire planet to grow food for 7.1 million people, okay? That's all we have. Now, agroecology is a type of farming. It's the study of sustainable agriculture. And what it does is it cares for these parts of the ecosystem. It cares for the soil because not only is farming just a piece of land like, you know, the Corn Belt in the United States, bee deserts as far as you can see. Agriculture is actually an ecosystem, right? And there's water filtration, there's pollination, there's habitat, there's all these things going on that are essential to life, and we grow food there. And let's talk about the bees for a sec. We have 450 species of native bees in British Columbia, and 70% of them nest in the soil and 30% nest on trees. Okay, those bees can't fly. The rule of thumb from Xerxes, the Organization for the Protection of Invertebrates out of Oregon, those bees cannot fly more than 600 feet. That's the rule of thumb. So that means a tree on your farm has to be 600 feet from your pollinating, your floral source. So that's a case for agroecology, because if you want to have your crops pollinated, you need bees on your farm. If you want bees, you need trees. And so it's all connected. So these are the reasons why we really need to be organic, because we need to steward the environment, and it's essential for our existence, and it's essential for food security.
Thank you, Natalie. Let's have a hand for Jeremy for, please spread the apple around. Maybe someone wants to eat it.
One more thing,
hand it out.
and here's how you can tell how your pollination on your farm is doing. That was my last job. I was a pollination steward. If you eat an apple and it doesn't have 10 seeds, it hasn't been properly pollinated.
10 seeds. You heard it here, folks.
Has 10.
Woo!
So let's just, look at this, the cost, as Rob pointed out, that subsidization of the food industry leads to these like low prices, sort of heavily, which then makes the organic products more expensive. And so it's like some people, a small percentage are buying organic food and paying more because of a sort of support. They want to support, or it's better quality and so on. But it creates a problem. So I just wanted to ask, actually I wanted to throw it out, because we are going to like open up the floor to questions. And I wanted to see how many organic farmers there are in the audience. Yeah. Now can we ask you why you went organic, please? There's a microphone for you. Don't just... Why you made that choice, in other words, to go organic when it might be more difficult financially.
Thank you. We were conventional farmers 25 years ago up in Prince George, and up in the north, that's sort of the norm. And when we moved to Vancouver Island 7 years ago, the norm is different here. Vancouver Island is eons ahead, I think, of the rest of the world in organics. And one of the first things I did was take an organic course taught by Mary Alice Johnson, who in my mind is the queen bee of organic on Vancouver Island. And I couldn't imagine farming any other way after I met her. And so that was a big incentive. The other thing, as we got older, our health, we start thinking more about that. We have grandchildren, we start thinking about them. And that extends to my community and then, of course, globally. So it just grows on you, and it just seemed to me that living here, there was no other way to farm. That all being said, if I could speak to some of the challenges, because the economics are huge. We are primarily a livestock farm, one of the few certified organic livestock farms on Vancouver Island, and I think the reason for that is that young people, first of all, can't access the land, and it takes a fair bit of land to do livestock. But you need to have a minimum of a $30,000 to $40,000 credit line to work off if you're going to be a livestock farmer. And I'm just going to give you an example of if you choose to raise 10 pigs organically. So first of all, you're going to buy 10 pigs. That's going to cost you $100 per pig up front. There's $1,000. Somebody do the math as we go along here. You're looking at then a minimum of $500 in feed per pig.
So now that's $5,000 you're going to need. You're looking at a minimum of $400 per pig for slaughter, cut, wrap, make all your cuts that you're going to do. So I think now you've got $10,000 invested, and that's just 11, and that's just in the pigs, the feed, and the slaughter. You've not laid out anywhere from $400,000 to $1 million to buy the land, to have the infrastructure to raise these pigs. And that's just not feasible for a lot of young people to do. So that's one of the reasons why there's not many livestock farmers. The other thing is there are marketing boards in BC that limit small farmers on what they can do. As a small farmer, I'm only allowed to raise 2,000 meat birds per year, so broilers, meat chickens. We can only raise 2,000, and you have to have a permit to do that. As a small farmer, I can only have 100 laying hens, or else I have to get a special permit from the Egg Marketing Board. So there are many regulations in place that make it very hard for small farmers, livestock, to get started. So there's not many of us, and that's part of the reason why. I also wanted to touch on the ALR, if I may. I'm sorry if I'm hogging the mic.
Go for it.
When we looked for land to buy, it had to be in the ALR. It had to be there because I needed to be assured as a farmer that I was protected and I had the right to farm how I wanted to farm on that land. But I am only human, and that land had to be protected from me. My 26-acre farm in Mill Bay, if a developer could get a hold of it today, is probably worth $4 to $5 million. It's prime development land. So that land needs to be protected from me. I am only human, I am nearing retirement, and if that could be sold to a developer, I would be a very rich person. But it needs to be protected. Now, unfortunately, my farm is for sale. We have been working it for 7 years. It's a beautiful farm. We work 14 to 16 hours a day, 7 days a week, 7 months out of the year. Lesser hours the rest of the days. It's physically killing us. It's physically killing us. As a small farmer, we both work the farm. We do not have extended health coverage. Our chiropractic bills were $2,000 last year to try to keep our backs going. My husband every year moves 100,000 pounds, 50 tons of feed, 44 bags at a time, because we do pasture livestock. Small farmers don't, if you're lucky enough to have one of the spouses working off the farm so that you have extended medical coverage and things like that, but many don't. So there's lots of things that we don't have in that sense. No dental, all those kinds of things. For the planner, I wanted to mention, so our farm is 26 acres. With the amount that we've got invested in it, we find it really challenging to look at opportunities where young people can come and pay a nominal $100 a year to lease an acre of land. Like, I've just unfortunately got too much invested to make that work. But I would want to know why that land could not be subdivided into 2-acre plots with very strict regulations that it had to be farmed. Like, you can't be putting a house on it and just living there. Is there not some way to put some rules into place that agricultural land can be subdivided down into smaller plots that have to be farmed? I'm just throwing that out there. I think it could enable a lot of young farmers to get onto small acreages to get started at a way smaller cost.
Well, I want to thank you very much. Thank you. I want to come back. You raised a lot of really key issues, so let's come back to some of them. But maybe Rob, you want to address that question right away? Is that
Is it possible? Yes, it is possible in an agricultural land reserve with the permission, the support of the local government, and with the approval of the Land Commission. And actually, the Land Commission trumps the local government in those decisions. I worked for the township of Langley many years ago, probably around 24 years ago, and we'd make recommendations about the land reserve against the subdivision, and the commission overturned us on occasion. Rarely, but on occasion. So they do trump. Their mindset is larger is better. Larger enables more farming options. And you know, from a conventional farming point of view, I suppose that's true. I mean, of course it is. You know, consolidation, and we've seen global agriculture consolidated into a handful of firms that control the vast majority of all food production. If that doesn't scare anybody, it should, because eventually that leads to the opportunity for price fixing, especially when things get scarcer. But that 2-acre parcels, I would think for that to work, there'd have to be a requirement. This creates a problem that nobody lives on it, because 2 acres becomes an estate residential property pretty darn quickly. You know, 5 acres becomes an estate. 10 acres becomes an estate residential property pretty quickly. So then you're looking at some kind of really interesting zoning requirement that says thou shalt farm. Yeah, an interesting notion. You know, so what would be the enforcement around that? And you can see how that could be a bit problematic and say, you know, get out there and farm because you're not farming. So, you know, it's possible technically. I think looking at the need you've identified, and I think it's bang on, there needs to be opportunities, smaller allotments for farmers to get started, and also for small intensive farming, because that produces on a land unit by land unit basis, done properly, way more product than conventional farming. So there needs to be opportunities for that, whether it's, you know, long-term leases on property, or whether it's some other program where you know the land is made available in a more controlled way. That might be easier to swallow, but if it was a general rule for an opportunity for all farmers to turn their larger estates into or larger holdings into smaller estates, that has some challenges to it. Maybe that's the best way I could answer that.
Do you want to add some comments to that, Natalie?
Yes, please. Well, it is the most complicated problem on the island, and it is the largest obstacle to food security on Vancouver Island is the price of farmland. You know, it's the thing that's turning so many young farmers away, the kind of farmers that we want, you know, to be on the land, the agroecologists, the permaculturalists, etc. The Madrona Farm campaign, in the UK, I was talking to Peter earlier, in the UK, the National Trust model, they own 200,000 hectares of farmland with hundreds of tenanted farmers. There's 63 national trusts in the world, and many of them own farmland. So why can't we do that here? Why can't we do that here? So the Madrona Farm project was actually a model. TLC, the Land Conservancy of BC, used to be a national trust. It's not anymore. And there's been challenges all along. Trying to protect a piece of farmland in the middle of a city, okay, is a big, we live in the Mexico of Canada. There are wolves in the closet salivating with their, you know, their excavators ready to build a subdivision. You know, it's all about money. So trying to protect farmland is a challenge. It's a challenge. So, but in this proposal, the Madrona Farm model was that the National Trust would own the land and offer long-term sustainable leases to farmers. So my husband's family, they owned the farm since 1951, and the farm was assessed at $2.0 million. And then after paying a surcharge to TLC of $250,000 to hold the land in perpetuity and the other costs, it came to $2.7 million. So let me tell you an exciting story. 3,500 people in this town raised the money to protect Madrona Farm forever. And it is a model of sustainable agriculture. It is a different kind of model. There's the Halliburton model, there's the Madrona model, there's different models, and we really need to keep on making the models, keep on protecting the farmland in perpetuity. Anyways, yes.
Hang on to that, hang on to that. Actually, I want to ask you, we'll take questions from the audience. We have a question there. Go ahead, sir. Richard.
Hi. Hello, everyone. My name is Richard Swindon. I have just discovered this afternoon while reading a newspaper at the Y some very interesting information which reflects on everything we're talking about here tonight. There's a new app that's just been produced. It's called the We Heart Local Label. And it is basically explore BC's tastiest local food, learn what's in season and where to buy it, get mouth-watering recipes, share your favorite local places and recipes. Download the We Heart Local app at iTunes, actually, is carrying it, and also a website that's URL is buylocalnatural.com. So
We Heart
that's,
Local.
I think that's an interesting app that people can carry when they go shopping, especially looking at farmers markets and such. They can find all kinds of information about the
Throw it
types
to
of
you.
plants that are being offered and et cetera, et cetera.
Thank you. We Heart Local, right?
Okay,
That's
We
the-
Heart Local
We Heart Local
Label.
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 We Heart Local label. So get
Yeah,
that.
so iTunes or at buylocalnatural.com.
Now, we knew there'd be an app for this, of course, but thank you very much, Richard. And actually, it points out like sort of creative solutions to supporting local producers, and so, sort of like the Hudson Market, which brings together local producers. And one of the comments in the social media was about creating a healthy island concept for Vancouver Island, that you'd highlight the local producers, organic farmers and so on, and use that to attract people to come here, because it'd be a place for a vacation. You'd take advantage of organic food, and So actually, I wanted to ask Natalie if you could talk about, because Madrona Farm sells to restaurants and stuff.
Yes.
You could talk about your experience of creatively seeking solutions to making it work.
Okay, well, first of all, the fellow with the app, I just want to say that's brilliant. It's a brilliant app, and we better really help their shareholders stay happy and protect the farmland, or we're in trouble. We here in Victoria, we have the opportunity of an economic lifetime. We have to talk economics as farmers. It's a scary word, but you know what? We are a culinary destination, okay? We have the ability to bring so much tourism to this island. We have a beautiful island, we have beautiful historic buildings, and we have great restaurants with great chefs. The reason why these chefs are so great is they're sourcing their food from local farms, and more could do it very, very easily. And at Madrona Farm, we had to sort of, we've had to align and streamline our marketing quite a bit over the years with different competitions and whatnot. But we have about 4,000 people now at our vegetable stand, but we wholesale to 14 restaurants. So, we're getting our food out there that way, and that really puts into that culinary destination. And yes, my goodness, and I almost forgot the best of all, which is Share Organics up at the top. My goodness, we 14 restaurants and Share Organics, a box program, and they have extra boxes to sell, and they're a weekly box program, and maybe Susan could say a few words about that. Thank you for correcting me.
Actually, Share Organics, it's a subscription service. How many subscribers do you have?
We're doing about 200 deliveries a week.
200 deliveries a week. Fantastic. So you can sign up if you need. ShareOrganics.com. No. .bc.ca. Rob, we have a question from the audience, but I'm just going to give it to Rob first.
I'm just going to add a couple comments about creative approaches to helping make it happen. And before I do that, I should have done this at the very beginning. I've been identified as a planner. I am a planner. I'm a community planner. I also work as an administrator, and I also work for a local government. And it was put up on the screen or advertised earlier, the District of North Saanich. I am not here as a North Saanich representative right now. I need to make that really clear, because I don't have a mandate to do that. I'm here as a person that's worked in local government and a planner for a lot of years, and I'm here as a student studying local food systems. So with that qualifier, I just preface my remarks.
Our lawyers asked us to say that.
No, it had nothing to do with that. But so what are creative approaches? You know, planners are really just now turning their heads to this, and this is a funny situation that we're just turning our heads to how to support food systems, and it's funny in a really bizarre sort of way. Civilizations, communities were first enabled by agriculture 10,000 years ago, in Neolithic times. It was agriculture that enabled humankind to become a people in situ. Stop roaming around, grow food. The food growing food was a fundamental system in cities for millennia, and it's really over this last upwards of 200 years, but mostly in the last 50 years, that we've divorced ourselves from it. Our cities, we've divorced ourselves from the fundamental system that enabled cities to be in the first place. So it's a bizarre situation that we're, the planning world, and I apologize for the planning profession in general, even though I don't have their permission to do that, for having omitted this. The planning profession kind of grew up and developed in a time where everything was about separating uses. So we separated food away from cities in a very effective way. Now we have to rethink that. So how do we get creative? Well, like I said, we're just putting our heads to it, but there are some ways to get creative. My focus is on local food systems. That includes organic. So what could a community do? What could a local government do? Well, a local government could say, specifically targeted at organic foods, we have local food procurement programs. Well, why don't we say it's local organic food? That's one thing a local government could do in terms of procurement policy. Everything that they buy for the municipality or through the municipality or through their rec centers is organic food. Not just local, but local organic. Revitalization tax exemptions. Finding a tax break for organic farmers if you qualify and you're certified. On top of the lower taxes, there could be yet more tax break. And that's really important because it costs money to do organic. That's another creative approach. And as we turn our minds to this, and this becomes much more of the toolkit and planners, I'm absolutely convinced that there'll be many more things that we'll think about in consultation with people that actually do this. And that's the third innovation. Speak to people who actually know how to do this.
Hey, someone taking notes? Because these... Sorry, go ahead, Natalie.
I have a really exciting thing that happened to me yesterday that involves a planner. Yesterday, Linda Gegge, many people know Linda Gegge. She's a great part of the food revolution here in Victoria, policy worker, and we made a little presentation at Saanich municipality, and I guess I can say it because I saw it on Facebook today, so it means it's okay. But we made a presentation about the possibility of Saanich taking on the role of becoming a farmlands trust within the municipality, and perhaps other municipalities following lead. And it was so exciting because the planner at the meeting, she wrote out there was a motion on the table, it got brought, there's a recommendation for it to go to council, and the planner was so quick-witted, and she just had that motion on the table, and so we may be getting a land trust in Saanich, and it might spread across the 13 municipalities in Victoria.
Question from the audience. Hugh, yes, go ahead.
It's so wonderful to see a very good turnout here tonight on a question that needs to be at least examined at this level, and certainly, as Natalie mentioned, at the municipal level and hopefully at the provincial level. And I don't know about the national level, whether it's going to... But we forget about the nibble that happened in Niagara. First it was industrial spaces, then it was housing developments, and before you know it, the Golden Horseshoe was no more in many ways. Thank goodness in some ways for the wineries, the whole wine revolution that happened that made land more valuable to be in wine than it is in housing. Natalie, you'll be pleased to agree, I'm sure, that restaurants like Souk Harbor House, when I wrote the menu every night, I made mention of where the key ingredients came from. And every restaurant that does that, they should be the places you go and eat at. Yes. One more thing that really has I remember Don Genova and a Nick Versteeg's movie. Do you remember it? Island on the Edge, about how we only have 3 days worth of food here in case, well, if there was a disaster of some sort. Somehow, I bet you that number has declined considerably.
It's 4 days now.
Is it four? What's
No, I'm just
well, I
kidding.
don't know. Okay, maybe we're lucky. I don't know. But in the larger sense, we should be taking our children to events like this, and you know, I don't know how to do that and how to get the message out to the younger members of our community, because they're the ones who are really going to maybe stop shopping at food palaces and start coming to visit Natalie. Don't you think? I don't know. Just observations.
Yes, definitely.
Hi, one quick little thing. Well, everybody, have you met Mr. Organic? Mr. Organic works in the schools. He works with kids. And as my daughter Lola would say, he was the only thing I liked at school. Mr. Organic does summer camps, and I worked at his summer camp 2 years ago, and it was the most inspiring thing. There was kids jumping off compost piles and so enthused. And you know what? Every single one of those kids knew there was only 3 days of food on the island. All those kids are going to be coming to the rally on the 10th. Mr. Organic is speaking there, and it's a family day rally. So we've got to get the future generations into this. So, yeah.
I just want to highlight a couple of points. There was a comment in the film that said there's got to be a political component to the transition to organic. And I'm hearing it from what Rob's saying about ideas that, you know, you could have a tax credit for a farm that goes organic or things like that. But the reverse of that is the subsidies that are already happening to the industrial farming. So you've got, on the one hand, you've got it skewed, if I may, right? It's sort of like backwards. We're subsidizing the industrial farming method when we should be subsidizing the organic. And to some degree that would also treat, I think one of the issues we're hitting here is that we have to treat land differently than just a commodity. It can't be mangled by the commodity economy like the land is only valuable for housing and condo developments when it's land that we need for food, and food is a deeper and stop me because I'm rambling here, but do you think I'm going onto something here? Like what political actions can we take to ensure it? Land trusts? How can we support through some kind of political initiatives the development of more organic farms?
Okay, there's a lot I want to say here. I want to pick up on the 3-day notion because I think that it's a useful step into another one. But this notion of how do you get the political support? I've been doing a lot of reading in my studies at UVic over the last couple of years, and what I am seeing absolutely consistently across the globe is the reason why this is of interest, why this is on the table at all, is because of the grassroots. It's not because of politicians. It's not because of planners. It's because of the grassroots. It's because people like you have been pushing this effectively. People like Linda Gagey, people like Natalie, people across the globe are pushing this and getting it onto the table. And people are now starting to pay attention. So segue off to the 3-day thing, 72 hours. That's how, and that's actually the standard. Most grocery stores, that's how much food they have on the shelves. So if you lose the supply, and that's a compelling little fact for a lot of people. When they hear that, they say, maybe I should be concerned about that. Well, there's a little lesson to be learned. People maybe get motivated by compelling facts. There are a few more compelling facts to share. I don't know if any of you are aware of the report done in the United Kingdom, 2011, called the Foresight Report, The Future of Food and Farming.
I missed that one.
Okay, well, it's a good read. All you have to do is Google it. But so a couple of highlights from that. It was an assessment of the sustainability or lack of sustainability in the conventional farming model globally. And you may recall in March of last year, we reached 7 billion people in the population, on the globe, 7 billion people, 7 billion. And it's projected to maybe peak out around 9 billion, maybe 10. But in 20 years, we're supposed to get to 8.3 billion. And that's a more prosperous, hungrier global population that wants to eat more of a Western diet. And that means more protein, meat protein base, which is more damaging. So in 20 years, 40% more food is going to be required, 30% more water, and 50% more energy. Okay, so some of you will be saying, okay, there's a few ceilings there that we're aware of. Water around the globe is becoming a problem. The largest aquifer in the world, the Ogallala aquifer in the southern mid-states, is due to expire in 2 to 3 decades. It'll run out. And that supplies, if you don't have water, it's hard to grow food. Dryland agriculture isn't as productive. And they're chasing aquifers, down around the globe. 2,000 to 3,000 feet in Asia, 2,000 feet in Africa. Water's a problem. And peak energy, whether it's now or whether it's in a few decades from now, depending on how much more life the fossil fuel regime gets out of fracking, it is finite. And the entire productionist system is joined at the hip to fossil fuel. When it expires, we're in organic farming, de facto, I think, right? So what does that mean in terms of something that's going to affect us? When we had a little shortage of oil back in 2008 and 2009, because of how much plant material is going to make biofuel, we had a food shortage. Does anybody remember the food shortage of 2008, 2009? Riots in 30 countries around the world. They were actually even rationing food in the United States for a short while. We forget it because we go in, as the film said, as the first one said, you go into the grocery stores and you see that supply of food, so there's no problem. Okay, we get a little concerned when we hear there's only 3 days of supply, but there's so many other major global factors at work which are going to bring the current system to a bit of a halt. When you have so much energy going in to grow food, and in some cases it's upwards of 50 calories of energy, petroleum energy, to put out 1 calorie of food energy. That's astonishing. When before we used fossil fuels, the energy going in to grow food was actually less than the food that you got. So we need to be aware broader of what the challenges are, and the more we're aware of what the challenges are, we and politicians and bureaucrats are going to be more likely to take this seriously.
Gosh.
Sorry.
I have
Natalie,
one more fact.
Get us out of this hole Rob's
Okay,
dug us
well,
into.
just before we get out of it, we just got to go a little deeper. BC is the poorest province with the highest number of children living in poverty, and we are the highest user of food banks. Remember back to that thing about we live in the Mexico of Canada? There is some huge disparity here, and so of the 4.7 million acres in the land reserve today, they're not quite enough to feed the growing population that is expected. In 1973, when the ALR was first, it became part of a visionary legislation, they had done population studies, and they found that to reach a growing population by 2025, they had to increase the land reserve by 30%. That is not what has occurred. Prior to the chairmanship of Richard Bullock, who is an amazing man, 90% of the applications to have land removed from the ALR were accepted. 50% now, as quoted on CBC the other day. The only food, I just got back from Africa. In October, I experienced food insecurity. In Africa, everyone sort of has 7 children in Africa. Maybe they get 2 meals a day. The kind of food they eat is quite different from the kind of food we get. Maybe it's just like a cup of pigeon pea mush. I was starving when I was in Africa. I was so hungry the whole time I was there because I wasn't getting enough food myself to my regular Western diet. So I started to get a bit panicky. Then I come home, the ALR is crashing, TLC is bankrupt. I was like, oh my gosh. And there's a problem because, you know what, growing food here really, if we have to import food from other places, the Port of Vancouver, they say, you want food security in Vancouver? We'll develop and pave the best port in the world, and we will import food from every corner of the world. You'll have, you know, olives in August, and this kind of thing. But the thing is when you import food from Africa, you're actually, there's children working on plantations growing food that aren't their traditional diets just for us. And they don't have enough food themselves. And so that's something to consider, as well as land grabbing.
Yeah, I'm hearing that it's even more important than ever to have local farms and local growing, etc. So, Rob, please help us.
Dig us out of the hole I was just started digging. Well, you know, I only mentioned a couple of topics, you know, that started digging this hole. You know, that was water and peak oil. I could go on about climate change. You know, how the productions agriculture affects climate change and how that will in turn affect agriculture and public health and the cost of public health with the non-food stuffs that we produce and the damage, the huge damage to the environment. But I won't do that. You got the gist that there's lots to be aware of, I think. But in terms of the solution, a really good read, I highly recommend it, is A Nation of Farmers by Astick and Newton. Their message is that, frankly, if everybody grew food in their backyards, in their front yards, in their side yards, the climate change challenge would largely be solved. An astonishing, you know, thesis and promise. And you know, what I see in terms of general reaction from folks in the industry, like Ministry of Agriculture and so forth, is that there's not a lot of valuation for urban farming. But if you look back into the Second World War and the First World War, in fact, the Victory Gardens, you know, those you know, private plots produced half of all the produce produced in the United States and in Canada. It equaled the output of all the commercial farms. And what's even more oddly perverse about this is, since the Second World War, our suburbanization have been characterized by much larger lots, which means more food capacity. You know, because anyway, so there's a way out. There's an astonishingly healthy and easy way out for everybody. You know,
So victory farms, but without a war. Right, we don't need the war.
Well, and Michael Pollan, and you know, you'll be familiar with the name. You know, calls this a war. You know, he said this is Victory Gardens in terms of a new challenge.
We hear it. A question, please, from the audience. Yes, sir.
Yeah, my question is really related to how we get to the future that people are talking about, and starting from where we are now. And I'm a big believer in kind of 90-10 rules, that you can be 90% right and 10% wrong. It's not an unreasonable way to move forward. So, for example, with organic farming, a specific question would be, it seems that the bar is quite high to declare yourself an organic farm, and I understand the reasons for that. I'm a biologist, so I understand the biological reasons, but in practice, would we benefit as a society from maybe having another bar, a 90% organic type bar that many farmers feel they could reach within their lifetime? And I'm wondering also about having just recently been down to California and Arizona and being reminded of the terrible water shortages down there and realizing how blessed we are up here with water, about our hothouse farming, which I'm sure has issues associated with it, but within the organic mindset, frame of thinking, is there a place for reasonably large scale in hothouse farming that would produce the crops that most of us are used to buying at the grocery store and taking advantage of our water supplies.
I think that's a brilliant idea, and the good thing about greenhouses is they do not have to be on top of soil. They don't.
So it can even be urban farming. Any other questions? Have we got some world solutions from the tweet chat? Yeah, Susan, go ahead. Oh, we need a microphone over here, and then there's a question over there too. Sorry, yes. So we'll just take Susan's comment. Yeah. 'Cause I know there's some stuff. Go
Well, I
on.
was just going to say in the PEI discussion, they were talking a lot, you bring up water, and they were talking a lot about water, and they were talking about it in terms of your water community. So the area in which you live has a particular water source, etc. So they're talking about a community, like we talk about food community sometimes. This would be water community. And they were talking about farmers and fishermen talking together about that water community. And just wanted to maybe throw that into the mix.
Yeah, it's a way of defining our communality. Like it's a shared. In other words, it's not a commodity. It's a shared. It's a process. It's fluid. Yes, ma'am. We'll get you the microphone right here.
Okay, can you hear me?
Yes.
Hi, Rob. I just wanted to ask if anybody knows how many organic farms on the island right now.
Natalie, do you have an idea?
I don't know, there's more every day, but Island Fresh Guide, there's a guide that has all the farms on Vancouver Island, and you can get them can we get them at the Hudson? Sometimes you can get them at the Hudson.
I know we did show a film here last year called In Organic We Trust, and they did talk about how organic is growing. It's like growing and growing. It's like it's a hot commodity. Question here, Jason. We'll get you the microphone. So it may bode well for more organic farmers as people want organic. Go ahead, Jason.
Rob, you spoke earlier about how the reason why this is on the table as a conversation is because at the grassroots level, and it's very mobilization. And when I attend events like this rally and things like that, like it's often a lot of fairly activated young adults that are really there, and they step into. Am I on? And they step into those situations with a lot of passion and fervor. And conversely, when I think of what Evelyn was saying and some of the restrictions or the barriers around organic farming, it seems like that sort of precludes or displaces a lot of youthful participation. Like obviously the more barriers there are, the more difficult it is going to be to enroll and entice somebody to get involved in something. So I'm really curious also about the distinction of organic versus non-organic. Like does it not serve us better just to have people farming, period, especially young people, and introducing people to farming versus moving the direction of organic farming, which might displace some people's participation if it's more complicated?
I agree. My research interest casts a wider net. I look at local food systems because it encompasses conventional farming in a local area. It encompasses all the farms. We're going to need it all. You know, to me, it can't be in either or at this point. I look to the examples of organic farming as being the motivators, the change agents for the larger farms. You know, and in fact, that's happening, right? The big guys are coming in and they're being accused of co-opting organic. Well, to me, actually, another way of looking at it is that's helping change the big guys. That's a good thing because that is, in fact, the recommendation of the Foresight report, that the agribusiness model has to be restructured, reformed, become much more sustainable. So, you know, things like LEAD ND, which is you know, a model for development, or things like organic, which is a model for farming, and the closer you can get to it, the better it is. But we have to look at it all, and you know, providing opportunities for young farmers and youth within our communities, I think becomes a community responsibility, because they can't afford it, you know, especially in an area like this with the price of real estate. So then we turn our heads on how to achieve that.
Natalie?
I tend to agree that our eye on the prize is protecting the land. First, we protect the land, and it's the canvas, right? The land is the canvas. If we don't have the land, we don't have the conversation. Most of the young farmers that, you know, we can hardly keep up with the people who want to work at Madrona. They're young, they're idealistic, they have stars in their eyes. We used to call ourselves young farmers back then too, but, you know, they're coming out already like a cookie cutter. They're already biodynamic. They're getting a whole new source of information than we got to. So I think things are moving, but we can't just say no conventional farmings. Like, you know, like that has to happen. Like, you know, there is a time restriction. We have like global pollinator decline because of pesticides and insecticides. So we have to think of those things, but, you know, it's a transition.
To start with, on the political level, the event on February 10th is to defend the agricultural land reserve. Is that correct?
That's right. We are defending the agricultural land reserve. That's the first step. The second step is that we're going to improve it. It's funny that, you know, I have been protesting deletions out of the ALR for the last 10 years of my life. I have thought the ALR was weak and, you know, not under-regulated. And now on the 40th birthday of the ALR, I'm standing out there protecting the ALR because it's all we have. And that's the thing that has to happen. So first we protect save the ALR, then we're going to improve it. And so that's the way it is.
Rob, you want to add about the ALR, the agricultural?
I want to echo support and augment what Natalie just said. The ALR is critical. It's fundamental. It's actually a shining example in the world of how to do it right. And I've seen lots of references to it. You know what they do in BC. You know, it's amazing. But it's not enough. You know, improving it, that's important. But what is absolutely critical is getting into a conversation on how to help the farmers be successful. Because saving the land, if the model isn't there, the support isn't there for farming and farmers to be successful, it's just land. You know, it's critical, but we have to have that next conversation.
Yes, I have a question here.
What do you think about starting something like a BC Farm Trust or something like that, where, say, people want to leave their inheritance or, you know, bequeath their money, they don't have any children, they just want to leave it and they just put it into this trust and it just grows and accumulates, and then you just start buying land, and, you know, if something's like your farm, if it's under pressure of being developed or something like that, that you just apply to the Farm Trust and somebody comes out and says, okay, well, you've been doing this organic, you're certified, so you're on the top of the list, and you work out a fair deal, or maybe there's a way you can still live on the land, you know, and that somebody can come and farm it, and then, you know, when it's time for you to move on to, you know, something a bit more, you know, whatever, then maybe there's just a way that we can just start getting people to invest in advance in their food.
A provincial land trust is absolutely necessary, but it has to come after the land reserve is saved, or else they're going to think, oh, well, we'll just protect it all privately. So anyways.
And we'll take a few more questions. Oh, sorry.
And I just want to add to that. And you know what? The provincial land trust, great, good idea. But local government can have a role too. You know, and I didn't want to talk about North Sanish examples, but this is just happening out there, so it's a fact. I mean, we have a rezoning application on 100 acres within the agricultural land reserve, and the deal basically is such that almost 90% of the land will be given to the municipality for farming. Roughly 10-12% is being taken out of the land reserve, and an equal portion is being put back in from another source. But so all of a sudden, the vast majority of that land becomes a community trust. You know, and that can be done at the local level. You know, so creative minds looking for opportunities to work towards that goal, it can occur at different levels.
Yeah, there's the new quotient. It's called the 80-20 quotient. It's the new developer's claim to win. They're planning on offering 20% to conservation if they can develop 80%. It's what's going on in Vancouver with the Southlands, the Pitafore lands, and it's the newest thing. It's the newest loophole, 80-20. And, you know, if we were to give up 20% of every development application to development and 80% to agriculture, we're still losing 20%. And believe me, when you drive through Richmond, BC, you know, you'll see every farm is for sale right now, and you can just imagine what a mess that would be.
Questions? Yeah.
Sorry, negative.
Go ahead.
Okay. Yeah, I heard via the website, there was a mention of apprenticeship programs for farmers, or people wanting to work for local farms and having an apprenticeship program. That could be reinforced by the federal and provincial governments. That could be just another one of the solutions to get young people interested in farming again. I don't know if that's a reality in PEI now, or what.
It's a good idea. I mean, I think we're going to have to look at all these different solutions, apprenticeship, trusts, local farming, urban farming, all different solutions. Last question.
In reality, we have actually an ace in the hole at the very high level in this province. The current lieutenant governor is very pro-agriculture, and if somebody could convince her to come out to an event like this, think of the news that would generate.
She's a rancher.
All right.
I just wanted to let you guys know, if any of you want to look at what an organic farm looks like, this Sunday on Madrona Farm, there's tours going on. If anybody wants to see what it's all about.
And I just want to support what Natalie said about the 80-20. If there's any deal, it should not result in a loss, any loss of the reserve, right?
Well, we're waiting for a response from the filmmaker, Mila, a question on Twitter. But while we're waiting, is it an opportune time to thank our guests here? Because we have a sponsor, Global Village. Well, hold your applause for a second. This commercial message from Global Village, offering guests for our sponsors tonight. So now you can put your hands together for Rob Buchan and Natalie Chambers.
Thank you very much.
It's a package of seeds.
This one is bigger.
It's the new line of Monsanto's organic seeds.
Anybody got a match?
I take that back. No, no, it's just joking there, folks. The Global Village would never sell that kind of product. Anyway, so we are waiting. Now, just before we break, do we have a hello?
Peter, could you ask them to sign their postcards, please?
Oh, yes, and don't forget, you have postcards on the table, and if you sign them and drop them off at the table here, we'll make sure they get mailed. So please sign your postcards to the government, as we're talking about political action. No, it's too late, eh? It's too late over there. Well, thank you very much, everybody, for coming. Thank you for watching on live stream. See you February 10th at the legislature. Thank you so much. Thank you. It was a real pleasure. Natalie.
Thank you.
What is in this?
Quick question about